We're recording.
Okay, so
You ever listen to Fat Joe?
yeah,
Okay.
Puerto Rican.
There's he says he shouts you out one time. He says,
Oh,
Raul,
yeah?
He says, Raul, you're. I don't know what Raul he's referring to, but
It must be. Are you kidding me? In Spanish culture, Raul's an old name, right? It's from the old countries. But there's modern people. There's not a lot of young Rauls.
okay,
Really.
okay,
It's like an older traditional name.
yeah,
I'm the fourth Raul in a row in my family.
okay. So you're the fourth.
If I had a son, he would be the fifth.
Or, what were we talking about before we? Oh yes, we were talking about. We were talking about jealous omnivores.
Yes. Or guilty omnivores, more like it.
Guilty. Yeah, yeah. And I was trying to
See, I don't
find.
make any excuses. If I could, if I could get away with doing it with my health, not eating meat, and but the situation at my house right now is that most of my family eats meat, so
Yeah,
it's just easy and convenient.
sure.
Unfortunately, that's not a real pick me up for someone like you that does it for ethical reasons. But if I lived in a place where it would be easier, I would probably do it myself.
You're talking when you say your family, you mean like wife and kids, or?
No, parents. I live with my
Oh,
parentals.
oh, okay,
I take care of them, and they help me out too.
okay. Yeah, it's getting the traditional fam to look into
It's
other
hard,
ways
man.
of eating is next to impossible.
Especially my stepfather is like a meat and potatoes kind of guy from the Midwest.
Yeah,
He was from Ohio,
yeah.
so he's like tough tough guy. He was in Vietnam, the whole deal.
What's interesting is, my dad, for as much as he's not really into vegetarianism or veganism, he is into health. So there was a window where he was practically veggie just because he was trying a certain diet.
Oh, I see.
Um, but besides that, I think he'll do the white meat of chicken and stuff like that,
Right.
fish and stuff like that. But he'll stay away definitely from red meat and probably stay away from pork and things like that.
Pork is the devil. Pork is
Yeah,
terrible for a human being.
yeah, especially for people of color. I'm not gonna remember. I'm not gonna remember the name of that food.
That's okay. You know when you'll remember when we hang up and you're about to lie down to take a nap or something, it'll come
Yeah,
back to you. You'll message me in the middle of the night.
yeah. It's a good one though, and it's like I had heard of it before, but I think I didn't know that there were vegan versions of it. And then one day I was eating it, and I'm like, "Oh, this reminds me. This reminds me of eggs. This is very, this is very egg-like."
Now you're not talking about eggplants, are you?
No, that's too on the nose, and that's
Yeah.
not. No, we're talking about something that is like traditionally Ghanaian.
Gotcha.
Yeah. An American wouldn't know it unless they had some ties or knowledge of Ghana or Nigeria, for that matter. It would kind of it would almost be like knowing Aki, basically.
Yeah, I understand that. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I put up a report. There's this group on YouTube which I really love. They're like a geopolitical group, and they cover all sorts of subjects, but they're very serious. They're very professional about what they do. And one of the things that I have on my profile in my Facebook is a report on Ethiopia and how it's going to be a future superpower.
Oh yeah, you were mentioning that.
I definitely suggest you check that out.
Okay, can you hit me with a link or?
Yeah, let me find it first.
Now, what is this based on?
This is based on they've Ethiopia has apparently always been a country or a region with power
Okay.
in Africa.
Okay.
And it also has clear water, even though it's landlocked, it
Hmm.
has clear water, like 9 clear water reserves.
Okay.
And if you heard me talking, I do believe that water is the key to future wealth. And
Sure.
I say this because it's going to be the new oil, more or less, where people basically go to war over oil. People will go to war over freshwater sources.
Yeah. Well, they kind of already have. I mean,
Yes,
yeah. There's definitely been uh, what would you call battles or skirmishes or conflicts over water,
yes.
and there's already been this horrible like privatizing of water and even making it illegal for local folks to collect rainwater and stuff like that, like evil corporation type, evil sci-fi level corporation type stuff.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah,
Hey,
yeah.
KD, you there? That was on mute.
Trust me, I may be a capitalist, but I make no excuses for the abuses of power.
Yeah.
I'm going to put it here in the chat.
Well, I think there's a difference between being like a what's his name, Adam? What's the kind of like the father of
Adam
capitalism
Smith.
there? Yeah,
Adam
I
Smith.
think there's a
But
difference
Adam
between
Smith
being.
warned about the time that we were living in. That's the cringe part, because wealth of nations is the basis of Americans' understanding of economics usually. But
Uh-huh.
he wrote other books that talked about the corruption of corporations and the gathering of wealth as a
Well,
bad thing.
that's my point. Is like this version of capitalism wasn't, I think, what he was advocating for.
No, he was not. He was not.
Right?
He
His
was
was
not.
just like any person with a relatively small amount of capital could enter, the market and make their stake their claim,
Yeah,
yada
yeah.
yada. This thing is annoying the hell out of me. I'm like I was trying to check out the link he gave me, and it keeps like wanting to stay on. We got it on pause.
Yeah, I definitely would check that out. I called it the real Wakanda.
Oh, okay.
I believe in what they're saying. It's very modern, very industrial. The current leaders of Ethiopia have gathered together the disparate groups inside of Ethiopia and the separate tribes and family groups, and are
Yeah.
bringing them into the government themselves.
Okay.
So they're actually sharing power, which is kind of one of the steps of a clear and important power in the future.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
No, I respect these guys a lot. They do a lot of good work. Those Caspian Reports people, they do a lot of good work, and I would definitely subscribe to them. If you're interested at all in foreign policy, definitely check them out.
Okay.
And it's not U.S. based foreign policy. It's
Yeah.
just general. It's just general knowledge.
Okay. Like world.
It's like world interest, I guess, is the best thing. They talk about NATO. They talk about different how one of the videos was how Canada is planning and slowly but surely to get 100 million people in the borders, which would give them enough people to compete on the world stage.
Okay. How many people do they have now?
That's a good question. I think they're at 30 to 40 million.
Well, God knows they have so much unused land up there, right?
Absolutely. So do we though. Most of the middle of the country is empty.
That is true. They say that like you could just take one of the Midwestern states and just like throw a bunch of windmills there and power the whole country. It
Oh
would
yeah.
just it would just be a matter of how to disseminate that, the grid. It would just be a matter of having a grid that could that can handle that and disseminate it throughout the whole country.
Yeah,
But
our grid is ancient, and it needs.
yeah,
That's why I'm hoping Biden is a real nuts and potato kind of guy, and I'm hoping that he takes care of the infrastructure because we need it real bad. Trains are falling apart. The bridges are deteriorating. The
well,
big bridges.
it's so unrealized potential, you know,
Absolutely.
and it's kind of like a lot of Africa is the same, but instead of being able to realize it themselves, you know, foreign superpowers come in and just like
That's true.
carve out their own interest.
China
In,
is treating Africa like we treated China for 2 decades.
yeah, or like we also treated Africa
Yeah,
for
no, that's true.
forever.
It's not the best relationship. It's abusive.
Um, you know, people are actually critical of Akon's plan to build in Africa because they're saying he's just uh, a pawn of the Chinese interests. I mean, I don't know. I haven't looked into it, so I don't know how much of
I
that is
would have
just.
to study it more, then I'll come back with my opinion.
Yeah, I don't. Yeah, I
I
can't
know.
form an opinion until I know what's
Yeah,
up.
yeah. I need to see. I need to see different sides of it and all sorts of stuff.
Um, I do know that he's providing electricity to a section. I don't remember how large, but he's definitely doing some things that are good
Sure, sure.
and needed and like that are seen as like wow, like he's doing something unprecedented as far as like the amount of people he's going to bring electricity to.
Right, and that's a first step to civilization. You need that.
Yeah, yeah.
Running water is first, I think, and
Yep.
then the for serious civilization, you need electricity available to the people.
Yeah, my dad's done stuff like that for like his home village,
Yeah,
which you know, going back and seeing the results of it was like quite an emotional
I'm
thing to be able
sure.
to
I'm
see.
sure. Your dad's legacy is important.
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
Oh, we lost KD a little bit.
Oh yeah, we did.
He probably had to go. Probably didn't feel good.
Was he not feeling well or something?
I don't know. He was talking fine, and then he went to go get a snack, and we never heard from him again.
Yeah, well, he was back. He was back, but he just wasn't off mute.
Oh, gotcha. So I never answered the question the girls were asking the other night. I'll answer it now, just to have it on record. The reason my dating life is so bad is because I like the crazy ones.
You do like the crazy ones.
I do. Unfortunately, that seems to be my taste,
Mm.
and that's not good. That's not good for you. It's not.
Right, right. Well, you know, the heart wants what the heart wants.
That's true. I've given up. I've given up trying to make sense of it.
Right. Well, what about the what about when you were talking about the, I guess like the communal? What was the issue?
Oh, communal versus the myth of the independent,
Yeah,
or the not the myth of the independent. The I call it the myth of the what's it called? The self-aggrandizing, self-absorbed man that
yeah,
apparently the United States wants to make out of everybody here. But that's not the way the world works. The way the world works in interconnectedness.
yeah.
I don't think to. Damien has a lot of great ideas. I don't think that a lot of them are are practical at the moment, because
Hmm.
I don't think our sociology allows people to think like that, at least here in the United States.
Right.
Because again, we have the myth of the independent, the I've done everything myself, I don't need anybody, that sort of thing.
Well, the thing about it is there's such a diverse body of people that I think, folks who are thinking on that wavelength and are able to communicate it are hoping that they can reach enough people so that we have a critical mass of people that are starting to think differently,
Right,
so we can kind of affect the population, because not everyone thinks on the same wavelength. And there's so
right.
many different groups and subcultures of people here. A lot of them we don't even realize exist. Every once in a while, we realize because they might like sway an election, or we might hear stories of them or something. But there are a lot of subcultures that exist that we simply just haven't read about yet or run into yet. Pockets of the country and subcultures of people we
Yeah,
haven't
and
seen
the
represented.
internet gives rise to subcultures. The cultures based on hobbies or interests, or religious states, very small religious groups. But the internet gives them opportunities, much like you and me are connected now
Right.
on the internet.
Yeah.
We're not a subculture, but if we started to put a message maybe to the people that we're looking for more friends or more group members or whatever, then it would start slowly like a snowball effect.
Yeah. I mean, and a lot of these groups have just existed for a long time
Sure.
before the internet. And like, let's say, like, I feel like Donald Trump tapped into groups of people that folks weren't really thinking about. Like some of the working class white folks, or
Sure.
some pockets of people. Like there are people who there are probably plenty of people in this country who don't know about what are the folks called that live in like who don't know about like Appalachian culture or Appalachian folks, right? There's
Right.
probably there's probably a large percentage of people in this country who don't even know that that culture exists,
Exists. Right.
right? Until there's some kind of documentary, or until somehow it lands on their radar. And there's
Sure.
groups, there's like really, some of them insular, and some of them you just haven't heard of for whatever reason. But there's tons of like very interesting subcultures of groups like this all around the country.
No, that's true. That's true. And they have either immigrated here, or I also believe that the interest cultures, like I'm gonna say something that's gonna sound funny, but the bronies and the furries are my example.
Okay.
They exist. They're based on a particular love of subculture, love
Right.
of a not a product, but a lifestyle and um, uh, uh, an ethos
Yeah.
that is unusual, but is based on a hobby more than it's based on anything else.
Sure.
Then you have people coming here from all over the world, and they form little cultures themselves. Persians, Jamaicans,
Hmm.
you name it. They're there,
Yeah.
and they may not be front page news to a lot of people. But if the left were like the last person that was left that did this well, the formed organizations of smaller organizations, was Bill Clinton when he
Okay.
ran. He was
Okay.
he was I think he's one of the most talented politicians. Purely, I'm not talking about his policies, but
Sure.
I'm talking about the way he communicates and who he communicates to.
Yeah.
Brilliant man. I met him twice. Unfortunately, I met his wife twice too, and I didn't like her too much.
Okay. That's interesting. A lot of people can't separate, policy from the brilliance of a person and how they run like that. It's
Right.
one of the problems I have with just our political cultural uh, political culture in general. And I don't even know if that's to say that's political culture or it's just like how human beings are,
Operate.
yeah, just how human beings are communicating with each other. I mean, a lot of it probably stems from internet culture, but like you can't have a nuanced conversation like this, right? The moment you bring up
Yes.
Clinton,
Everybody
some
gets their hackles raised. Yeah.
yeah, everyone has to tell you the history of the Clintons and the crime bill and like what they did, how they got the DNC to pull to the right. Everyone's got to run down the history and like make sure about daily bombings in other countries and not
Sure.
going into Rwanda and stuff like that. And
Sure.
it's like it's good to know those things, but it's also good to have a conversation where someone can say like, yeah, Bill Clinton was a brilliant person politically. He built a ton of like coalitions across
Yes.
differences, and he knew how to politic, which is why
The
they love
the
him.
the thing that people forget is that people are complex, and
Yeah,
good and evil exists in both one person all the time.
yeah,
I believe that heavily, because and what you should try and do is, and good and evil in this particular instance always means the same thing to me. It means selfless and selfish.
hmm
And I believe that some of the things he did was extremely selfless, but I also believe that some of the things he did was extremely selfish,
yeah,
and that's just the nature of human beings. I think that Bill Clinton is a mirror of where humanity is at.
yeah. I was gonna
Brilliant,
say, yeah, yeah,
but flawed. Very flawed.
and I was gonna say, even that is used to in this society. It's like he probably felt like he needed. There's a certain amount of ruthlessness that goes
Yes,
into winning those
yes,
kind of positions. And I feel like for him, he was charismatic enough and well rounded enough and well intentioned enough and connected that he was able to win. Whereas, by the time Hillary came along, she had a lot of the same ambitions, but not a lot of the likable characteristics or the charisma. And I mean, for all intents and purposes, of course, there was like a lot of misogyny going on and people finding excuses not to like her. But at the end of the day, there is that likability factor too, which she just didn't have,
didn't
which
have it.
goes beyond her gender. And it's
Yeah,
like,
she just didn't like the people that she was representing. I think that's the key. Like I will say that Bill Clinton always seemed to be like a happy warrior. Like he would go in and he would do the best he could for the people he tried to protect
yeah,
and influence. And but he was always cheerful about it.
right.
She never looked cheerful at all. Period. And
You
and
know,
I found her flawed. I found her flawed in 16. I still find her flawed now.
oh, no, no, I mean, she certainly hasn't gotten better. I mean,
No.
if anything, I think she's given into, the
The dark
shade and
side. The
yeah,
dark side.
yeah,
She's
yeah,
the.
pretty
I
much.
expected her to lash out with lightning at what the last reporter that asked her anything funny.
Yeah. No, I mean you're totally right. It's like now she's got nothing to lose, so she
Yeah.
might as well let it all out. But I mean, I do think back in the day she was more happy-go-lucky. But
Yes.
I think the, I think the Republican machine, and like you remember, like when the
Yes.
Clintons were trying to come out with their version of
Healthcare.
changing the healthcare system.
Yeah.
And I think that whole thing, and then Monica, and just like everything that happened, I think kind of crushed her spirit to the point where she had her strength about her, but certainly not her.
It was a grim strength. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. Yeah, not the unbridled enthusiasm that a politician needs to win people over.
Yeah. Because
Certainly.
I'll tell you, the best thing that Obama did was give people the chance to hope again.
Yeah.
after so much corruption, so
Yeah.
much evil
Yep.
in the government. Even if it was just a slogan, let's say it was just a slogan
For sure.
entirely, but
Sure.
the slogan still had its own merits.
No, it was still inspirational,
Yeah,
even if it ended up that there wasn't as much progressive substance behind it as people thought, and even if all the liberals and progressives felt a little betrayed when he got in there, and they're like, "Hey, he's more centrist than we thought." They were still inspired,
yeah.
and there were still people, registering to vote and maybe even learning more about the political system besides
Which
voting,
just made
which
me
is really important.
joyful because unfortunately, I think a lot of people don't understand the power of the minute you give up on the political system, one person,
Yeah,
it becomes a cavalcade of people, and the more people give up, the worse our government becomes. It's not unusual that we have a Trump right now because so many people have given up on the political system that somebody better couldn't exist, just couldn't exist.
sure, sure. And I mean, and that's what I've been trying to tell Joey about Bernie is like, maybe don't feel so bad that he's not in office because we're just not. I don't think we're there yet,
Yeah,
right?
probably.
Like, I
Hey,
mean, I
Moses couldn't enter the promised land. I always say that.
yeah, and I love his ideals and stuff like that. But if we were ready for him, I think we would have him.
Yeah,
And like when you see like real movements that are happening at the right time, they have the right momentum, they're in
yeah.
the right moment of history. Like all of these things come together. All of these things come
They
together.
get their ducks in a row, and it looks perfect.
Yeah, it looks perfect, and it's like this historical thing, this confluence of happenings come
Right.
together, so that even when the right is doing their bullshit, uh, voter suppression and they're cheating, and even when all that stuff is happening, you're still winning by a large enough margin that you're
It
still
won't
winning,
matter.
that it won't
That's
matter.
that's what's happening right now with Trump. He sees no way of honest victory, so he's
Hmm.
trying to gum up the works by destroying the postal service and all sorts
Yeah,
of things.
yeah, that's
I
ridiculous.
never thought I would live it through a man who was so obvious and so forthright about his corruption that
Yeah.
we would just be like, oh, it's another day with the miserable man.
Well, our complacency is the greatest weapon they can use against us in
That's
the
true.
United States. And I've always seen how other countries protest, and whether it's white citizens or black citizens or citizens of any culture, when they protest and when they get pissed and when they fight back, it looks different normally than it does in the U.S. And we're just complacent, you know.
Well, we have Xbox. It's hard to want to
Yeah.
fight in the streets
Yep.
when you
We've got Xbox, and we've got
Netflix and a bunch
places
of
you can go
yeah.
24/7 to order your food, or you know
Complacency and privilege come hand in hand,
yeah,
I think. And I've always, like, for instance, what I said was the way you break racism is not through black folks and getting together and organizing, although that helps. It's
hmm
really when you convince white people that there is a problem. Because
yeah,
first you have to, because there's no way. Look, the statistics speak for themselves. People of white European ancestry are the majority, and they're going to stay the majority for a long, long time. Maybe
mm.
together, we'll in about 40 years or 20 years, I forgot what it was, all the minorities together form enough that we form a block that overwhelms the majority. But the
Well, brown
majority is,
brown people are going to outnumber white people very soon.
yes, but we're all still divided, and that's the problem. Like you and me being Hispanic and black, we
Hmm.
we we, we don't we see each other as competition for that you know coveted prize of who's going to be the champion of the minorities. And I honestly, the only way to counter that is through open dialogue and just chatting with each other, getting to know each other. If that's not the simplest solution, I don't know what is, because that's honestly what you have to do.
Sure.
Flav, give me a moment. I have to use the restroom. I'll be right back.
Okay.
We're almost out of time again.
Oh, yep, we got 7 minutes.
So yeah, like I do my part. I go to the black communities that I know, and I try and I not help because that's condescending, but I try and just open communication and see what it is. I go to a black church for that matter,
Okay.
and it's an accepting church. It accepts everybody, but it has mostly black people in it. So, and the pastor is black as well. A young black guy called Redeem. Very, very good. Very passionate.
What kind of denomination?
It's called UCC. I'm not sure if you're aware of it, but it's very liberal, like Christianity.
Okay. Is you for like Universal or
Universal?
Okay.
Universal Church of Christ.
Oh, okay.
But it's very liberal. It's almost like a Unitarian church, but we still believe in the Christian background.
Okay, so yeah, what is so a Universitarian church does not?
Unitarian doesn't believe in the actual. The construct of the Unitarians is that they believe in a type of faith, but it's not pinned down to any particular region.
I see.
Or background.
I got you.
But they're pretty much like our staunch allies. Them and the disciples of Christ are like our staunch allies in social justice.
Oh, okay. Cool.
And we're fairly big out in the West, but and in New York actually, we have a bunch of churches in New York.
Okay, I was gonna say I noticed in D.C. the churches are really big on social justice issues. I was quite pleasantly surprised.
Like the church that Obama went to was a UCC church with Reverend Wright.
Okay.
It's one of the biggest ones too. It's a huge, massive church. It's like almost like a mega church size.
And that was in
Chicago.
Yeah.
Chi-town.
Interesting. Yeah, organizing your church. That's a big one.
Oh yeah. It was major, and the things he said, are not unusual for a UCC church. That's the thing I wanted to make certain that people knew. Sure. That they take a very worldly, not very like what some people would call anti-patriotic. They just take that we're citizens of the world. Yeah. And that we owe it to more than just our country to solve the problems on the face of the earth.
Yeah. Well, to Midwestern mainstream America, that stuff plays very radical on the evening news. So.
Yeah. When I come back, and hopefully somebody else comes back, I want to talk to you about the thing I noticed about Trump is that he was lifting lines from Bernie, and themes from Bernie, and like you said that he was appealing towards certain groups of people. I think that Bernie was doing the same thing, but in a more general sense.
Well, yes, yeah. Let's talk about it. I mean, it's definitely they're both seen as populists, right?
Yes.
One just does it from a perspective that's considered more positive and leftist, and one does it, for more
nefarious reasons.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, more nefarious reasons. But opposite sides of the same coin, perhaps. I don't know if that's a good.
And he's mentioned Bernie before. I don't know if people realize that, but
yeah, I feel like he has. I mean. And, it's all by design, right? Like, if you don't think Bernie's going to win, you probably mention the guy that you want to divert some of the votes to, or what have you. I don't know.
Right.
That's all. It's all strategy.
Very true. Oh, Joey. Joey messaged me. Hold on a second. What do you say? Oh, he's not going to be able to. He's not going to be able to join us for right now. I think.
Okay. Yeah, you
Let me
saying
see if
that.
he. Let me see if he's free. Hold on. I have a problem that I try and type when I talk, and I end up typing exactly what I say. I'm sorry. I know silence is killer, but I'm
It's all
just
good.
saying.
I'll put a. I'll try to insert a song
Yeah,
using the YouTube editing software.
one of
So,
yours. I hope yours was good, by the way.
oh, thanks. Yeah, unfortunately, it's not so easy for me to put mine in. Uh, YouTube has their own that you can just kind of slide in.
Oh, I see. I see.
But one day I will have the total editing package software where I'll be able to do things like that.
Gotcha. Yeah, because it'd be great to promote your stuff while we're doing this. Might as well
Yeah, for real. For sure.
get two birds, one stone. Is what I always say.
Yep. I wonder if I could do that with the title. I wonder if I could put like my SoundCloud as like the title to one of these
Oh,
shows.
smart.
Yeah.